Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the EV portion. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody.
The image behind us is a part of a Teslarati article talking about the opening up of parts availability Tesla has released. And we were just discussing that actually before the podcast here, and a whole bunch of things come to light. Apparently, this isn't the first time, of course, Tesla has done that. They did that a year ago exactly actually,
Yeah.
with the Tesla Roadster parts.
That's right.
All of the repair manuals, the owner's manuals, any kind of information, even schematics and some software, were released. Which, of course, made the right to repair people very happy. And this is something similar to that. The EPC, Electronic Parts Catalog, will now allow owners to purchase and install some car parts themselves. The caveats, however, are that certain parts, like in the high voltage section, will not be available. They will be able to install and purchase parts on their own, low-tech parts primarily. It really doesn't give us a list here, so I'm kind of very groping for a description. But they do say that some parts are better left in the hands of trained mechanics and technicians who can install things without too much risk.
I love the idea. If you need a set of shocks or something like that for your car, you should be able to go buy a set of shocks or a set of brakes or, stuff to do with your door, a door handle, a door panel. A lot of those things are easy to replace, can be done by your typical home mechanic or auto repair shop without too much risk. Some things you would think can be done without too much risk, but it's not quite the same. This last summer, I went ahead and replaced an AC compressor on my son's Tesla Model S. And it didn't even occur to me that this AC compressor, of course, it's an electric car, it's going to run on electricity. As the old AC compressor was going out, it started pulling more current than it should, and so it blew a fuse up line. I couldn't figure out why the AC compressor wouldn't come on. And so I actually ended up bringing the car in here to Gruber Motors in order to get it taken care of. On an ICE vehicle, that's a non-issue because your AC compressor typically sits on that serpentine belt that runs everything, and so it doesn't even run on electricity.
Right. Yeah. Good point. The concern that Tesla has, of course, is that there are some lethal voltages in the cars, and a prime example is there are contactors inside the large high voltage battery packs that will open up to kill the 400 volts at hundreds of amps.
Right.
But there is a failure mode called a welded contactor. That's when the contactor finally decides that it's given up, and when it closes, it actually welds those 2 points together, and that solenoid activity will no longer open that connection. So now you have 400 volts. And if you're starting to dig inside the high voltage portion of the battery pack, you're exposed to 400 volts at hundreds of amps, definitely lethal voltages.
Yeah, definitely. So it's going to be kind of a fine line that Tesla has to walk. They're probably the first in the industry doing this because they are the ones that have been in the industry the longest and are the one EV or battery EV car company that has millions of cars on the road. Nobody else has had to really deal with this yet, but it's going to be coming for a lot of different brands.
The question that I have as well is who's concerned about this at the manufacturer's level? I mean, if you sell something and they pay full price for it and they own that item, whatever it is, who are you to direct and tell them what they can and can't do with it?
Right.
So what is it that's really at play here? Is it the risk management teams at these OEMs that are saying, we've got liability? Granted, Grandpa working in his backyard on a welded contactor type high voltage battery pack, getting fried or whatever, could be a liability for us, despite the fact that we've sold it, we're done with it, and we should have no entanglements to that product.
Yeah. Yet at some point, the just based on the volume of vehicles that are out there that have shocks and brakes and car handles and other
Hmm.
low tech things that can be repaired by your average mechanic, that risk is going to end up tipping toward the right to repair people who are going to sue you because they can't repair their cars.
Yeah. And there could be also murky warranty issues, and I could foresee that. Unlike an ICE car, where you can basically change all the mechanical components, door handles, for example, don't need to be reprogrammed.
Right.
They're not intelligent door handles, right? Even the HVAC compressor would have to be reprogrammed, firmware reloaded, that sort of thing, the software.
Potentially it does,
Yeah.
yes.
So with these newer cars, there could be some murky warranty issues that emerge. Someone changed something, they didn't install it correctly or whatever. Well, now you have a problem in the MCU. You've got a problem in the Linux computer. Who's liable for that? And the finger pointing starts. So that would be my guess, is that the OEMs are aware of the fact that there could be extended liabilities, and we're in a litigation happy society. Um, Now, can they control the purchase of certain types of parts? That's a whole nother legal question, because that's where the right to repair group comes into play.
Yeah, then it becomes antitrust, it becomes right to repair, and that's a whole nother legal quagmire. I guess this is why they pay the attorneys the big bucks.
Yeah, one of the articles here is Tesla faces old lawsuit that claims it monopolizes repair and parts market. I can't imagine that Tesla is as overloaded as their service centers are. Feel a competitive pinch, and they're trying to control the volume of work that's coming their way.
Yeah.
It doesn't wash with me.
Well, I don't see it. And you make a great point there too, with the tens of thousands of cars every month that goes out. We're talking a little bit pre-show about all the vehicles that are being delivered. It's end of year. Tesla's announcing numbers. Lucid's announcing numbers. Rivian's announcing numbers. Tesla did significantly more car volume just in the United States than Rivian did all of last year
Wow.
in the month of December.
In 1 month, yeah.
In 1 month. And so you look at those hundreds of thousands of cars, Tesla does not have the service infrastructure to be able to support all the potential repairs that they
Yeah.
need to do. Personally, I think it's would be a smart business decision for Tesla to open this up somewhat, get some service centers trained who can do not just body work, but do some of these mechanical jobs, to take that very easy, low revenue, high volume work off of their service center, so they can focus on more of the high revenue stuff.
Outsourcing definitely makes sense. Yes, yes. So the final part of this is, and then we'll get to some questions that are coming in here. Currently, parts are the parts availability ranges to every vehicle that is currently offered except for the Cybertruck. And at this point, the EPC program for the all-electric pickup truck is not available yet. YouTube, Martin Woods. Hi from UK. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining
Martin.
us. Yes.
On YouTube, EV Unedited has a question for us. It says, I have a Model S 2015. I saw a video that recommends doing a coolant bypass in the LDU. It's a rear-wheel drive motor, as the seal in the coolant manifold will fail. What's your take? And will Tesla eventually need to recall that LDU?
Wow, bunch of things to unpack here. Doing the coolant bypass is a good idea because it will prevent failure and leakage into the inverter, which is very expensive, of course. We do it in our service center. There is even some of the guys are saying yesterday there's a group that piped up and said, well, if you have a wet inverter and you have some coolant leakage in there, one of the repair methods is to bake it in an oven, apparently to dry up, the moisture. Well, I'm not sure that that's going to be 100% because you have corrosion residue from that.
Right.
which is conductive. And if that's on circuit boards, you're going to be altering where the signals are flowing and how they're flowing and the biasing and all of that. It is a problem. The final question, though, is will Tesla need to recall the LDU? Well, they've had a few years to make that decision and have not. So I think at this point we are still left with a number of solutions like this, including the coolant bypass. Some people were putting a weep hole down so that if any coolant did get into the inverter, it would actually be able to exit. Um, it was a design compromise, and again, it's very difficult in defense of the OEMs, and it's not just Tesla, to predict every single failure type or mode that your vehicles could undergo, especially if it's a time-related failure.
Right.
And then, of course, you have parts issues. Well, that seal that is failing, maybe that was an inferior product. It's not something that Tesla made. And oftentimes, you don't see it until it ages. The Tesla Roadster is a prime example. There's an insulating type material layer that is on the IGBT transistors, and there are a number of them in the three-phase inverter in a Tesla Roadster that couple to a heat sink, and it transfers the heat. As this material begins to age, and we're talking about 5 to 10 years now, it crumbles and decays and eventually shorts the IGBT.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, had Tesla known about that at the time they were installing it, they would have selected a different material. But these are the things that you don't uncover until you get a certain amount of wear and tear.
Well, exactly. And I think of, we found out about the insulating material back in what, 2016, 2017.
Yeah, very early on.
That was when they were starting. And in 2016, 2017, we had never seen a switch pack failure.
Mm-hmm.
It took all the way up until end of 2023, beginning of 2024, when we saw our first switch pack failure. And then once we saw one, we suddenly had 10.
Yeah. It was almost like planned obsolescence, which of course it wasn't.
It wasn't.
But it was components that were aging out to a certain level.
Yeah, components were getting to their end of life. And in some cases, these components were probably working as long as they were designed to work by the engineering or the original manufacturer.
Yeah. Highlander is with us now. Welcome from YouTube. He says, John Deere and Chase tractors are notorious for that. They won't give up their parts for anything. Hit the like button, folks. Yeah, there are companies that are maliciously trying to control competition. We're in the critical power business. Mm-hmm. And unlike the EV business, the critical power business is full of companies that engage in dirty tricks to limit competition. They drag you out for parts. They overcharge for parts, and they essentially are. They feel they have an acrimonious relationship with competition. When any smart business person realizes the exact opposite is true. Smart business people explore synergies. No competitive overlap is 100%.
Right.
So you turn your competitors into customers and into vendors, and now everybody wins.
Right. That way, if one competitor comes across the problem that they can't easily solve, they can go to their other competitor and they work together on a.
Yeah.
It's definitely a symbiotic relationship when it's done that way.
Especially in a market like EVs, where you have way more customers and opportunities and demand than you have delivery capability.
Well, and you know that market is just ramping up. One of my favorite sayings is, "We've got a tiger by the tail here." The EV repair market is growing exponentially now because we're getting into the range of Model 3s and Model Ys coming off of warranty and starting to see repair issues. Where we used to see hundreds of cars a month, we're now seeing tens of thousands of cars a month coming off a warranty and needing some sort of outside service. It's a tidal wave.
Very much supporting your earlier position, which is that the manufacturers, the OEMs, are going to have to learn to outsource their service in order to meet the delivery goals that they have in place and the production volume that is flooding. By not doing that, they end up with a bad reputation for lousy service, and nobody wants that. It's we need to hit on all cylinders.
We do. And, back to Highlander's point, like John Deere and Chase Tractors have done,
Yeah.
they've got a bad reputation in the industry for what they do.
YouTube Martin Woods again in UK says, "Have you seen the Electric Trucker YouTube channel?" I haven't. Have you?
I haven't. I'm
That's
gonna
one
look
worth
that one up.
looking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. His latest video is titled Truck Manufacturers Plan to Sell More Electric Than Diesel by 2029." Great channel for those interested in EV trucks. We've got a few of those types of projections as well later on, and countries that are actually accelerated in their goals to convert ICE to EVs. TikTok KBM 42299. We work on Teslas at our shop. Well, excellent. Uh, if you if you're interested, our Gruber Motors channel on YouTube has some tutorials and a lot of our experiences that we've uncovered working on the vehicles.
Yeah. On Instagram, is this better GUI? We work on Teslas at our shop, they also say.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla has referred clients to us, and they're a fun car to work on.
You know, that speaks volumes, what you just said. Tesla has referred clients to us. Tesla sees competition as a form of partnership, not 100%, of course.
Right.
But we also experience that. And of course, you have to treat them right. You can't do a disparaging video about the manufacturers or the OEMs and expect them to refer business to you. It is a partnership in so many ways. But that's what's so refreshing. In all the businesses we're in, the EV business is the most progressive in that regard, in that we have partnerships with these OEMs.
Yes. Niels from the Bion Danish
Welcome.
Genome Institute is here. Welcome and Happy New Year, Niels. Well, he says Tesla profits on large part replacements where smaller fixes would do, plus the lack of qualified technicians, as you have often mentioned.
Yeah. And you know, the fundamental reason, and I've talked to Tesla about this, it's not that they are profit oriented and find that the only way to handle your battery replacement on your Model S is to change the entire thing because it's a $22,000 part and they generate more margin from that. The problem is that at the service centers, they don't have the equipment, the skills, and the know-how on how to do repairs inside these types of products.
Right.
The majority of work they do is module swapping. It's low-tech auto, and they don't have the equipment. So I have never found, at least with Tesla, that there's any kind of a profit motivation there. In fact, there's a frustration that they can't do more for the customers and do this type of thing. Without giving away too much, there with the Tesla Roadster, the Roadster program at the service centers is actually expanding into something akin to that, where there's going to be a bit more troubleshooting now available, rather than someone comes in and they've got a brick battery, which could easily be fixed by us for a couple, $3,000.
Yeah.
And they say, well, you've got a $45,000 problem. That's your only option.
Yeah.
That is beginning to change without giving away too many details at this point. YouTube, Niels is saying, isn't Tesla having a coolant delete on more recent models? Niels, I don't know that. We don't see the later model Teslas very often because it's all warranty work. We saw our first Cybertruck on our alignment lift actually about 3-4 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, we'll report as soon as we get more information about that.
Yeah. Honestly, in general, we keep so busy with the Roadsters and early Model S's that we haven't seen many Model 3s or Model Ys at all, and not even very many Model S's yet.
Right.
We work on so many Roadsters. YouTube Highlander, he says, that's why I was surprised to see the Tesla Toledo repair facility on Telegraph and Alexis closed down right down the road from where I live.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I've got a picture here that we can pop up, and this one I found humorous. And the caption says, when people ask what you like most about owning an EV. And living back east, that is totally true. Not only is it frigid, but it could be sleet, it could be raining, it could be hailing, and you somehow have to pump gas in order to continue on your trip.
I have lived that. And here in Phoenix, you live the opposite too.
Mm-hmm.
When it is 115 outside and there's a breeze blowing, that breeze is just hot.
Yeah.
And you suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So that I like that picture. That's a great one.
All right. One of the other topics here is, and this is the headline, Tesla sales in China jumped by 8.8% in 2024. It was a record year for them, of course. And they reported that in 2024, EV sales rose 8.8% year over year to more than 657,000 vehicles, while the company's global deliveries fell slightly by 1.1% to 1.79 million. So Tesla's sales in China also jumped 12.8% in December for the previous month, which is a record high of 83,000 vehicles delivered. Also continues the article that Tesla also launched a number of late-term promotions in the Chinese market, including discounts on the final payment of the Model Y, and it looks like they're really trying to promote that model in China. The upcoming Model Y Juniper, as they call it, has been spotted more frequently in both the U.S. and in China. And Gigafactory in Shanghai has started producing the refreshed EV in increased volumes. Now, remember, these are factories that they're able to build in about 12 months time frame, about a year time frame, compared to the U.S., where the regulations push it out a couple, 3 years, or in Germany, where all of the environmentalists have to be satisfied before the thing can start operating.
Yeah, it may take 5 to 10 years just to get the environmentalists on board.
Right.
And in looking at background information, there are a few points that I found that I thought would be useful to share. First, success in China equals success in the world. Yeah. If you can be a successful EV maker in China, where the average EV is running $25,000 for a car, then you're going to be successful anywhere else in the world.
Good point.
You add to that China is the world's largest car market. And Tesla has actually, in the fourth quarter of 2024, retaken the lead over BYD on battery electric vehicles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was very slight, but they had about 5,000 more deliveries of new vehicles than BYD had in 2024. So Tesla's growth actually pushed it just above BYD on that battery-only electric vehicle segment.
Right.
That's impressive for Tesla. Shows that they're getting things right, that they're hitting the right market, because China, being the world's largest market, significantly larger even than the United States. That's where the money's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Tesla is the only US-based auto manufacturer that has any kind of presence in China on electric vehicles like that.
So I've got an AI-generated image here of Lucid. There we go. And I'm going to let you handle this because the numbers are all over the place. This morning, as I was telling you, I watched Lucid stock. It was up at 362 cents per share, and I thought, wow, we're going to have another strong day here. I looked at it a half an hour later, and it was down to 322 or something like that, because a financial analyst came out and said, oh, it's only a $3 stock.
Yeah, in fact, and looking up Lucid right now, it's down to 320.
320, okay.
Yeah, and that's odd because Lucid, Lucid Oasis had reported that they estimated Lucid would have somewhere around 21 to 2,200 vehicles sold in the fourth quarter, which is impressive. It's a 43% increase over last year. The actual numbers came out just before the podcast time, though, and it was 3,386 vehicles produced in quarter four. Meaning that Lucid met their production goal for 2024. They produced 9,000 vehicles, actually 9,029. and 3,099 vehicles sold in quarter four. They ended up the year at 10,241 vehicles sold, which is a 71% increase over 2023.
So why is the stock tanking? There's a good question.
It's all emotional. Lucid's doing well. They're continuing to grow. Obviously, they went to the final line of defense for somebody in sales. They dropped their price,
Mm-hmm.
and that has really helped to drive their sales upwards. But Lucid is on a kind of on a roll right now. They've been about 14 or 15 months of uh, meeting their plans. They planned 9,000, they got 9,000 production. They planned to have at least 9,000 in sales as well. They got 10,000 in sales. They planned on introducing orders for the Gravity in the fall of 2024. They made it. They planned
Mm-hmm.
on delivering their first Gravities, to customers by the end of 2024. They did that too. So they're kind of on a roll, and they're finally doing what they said they would do instead of the overly optimistic predictions of 3 or 4 years ago.
And as you had mentioned earlier, if we can just see that cash burn number begin to reverse the trend, instead of growing, we need it to start subsiding.
Yes. I think that if you guys remember, the cash burn or the net losses were in the 950 to million to $1 billion range in quarter three. If Lucid shows that they have reduced those losses, if that loss starts with an 8, even if it's 899.99 million, that's going to show that they're beginning to turn the corner on profit and loss, and that's going to excite the shareholders as well.
And that was recorded or reported in Q4 for the entire year, correct? Not per quarter is what I want to make sure.
Yeah. Well, no, that 900 and some was quarter three losses. They're going to report the quarter four financials in February.
It is per quarter.
That was per quarter.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah, that was per quarter.
we're going to have to go back for some additional funding unless this reverses as well.
They will eventually, but they've as much as said before they're profitable, they're going to have to go for at least one more round of funding from somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people chiming in. Martin Woods, the electric trucker says that the Tesla Semi will need to be modified for use in Europe. One thing he said was that the central seat in the Tesla Semi would not be legal in some European countries.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
On YouTube, Easy EV asks a question. He says, are recalls which call out model years applicable to all cars in that model year, or does your serial number have to be associated with a recall?
It depends on the recall.
Okay.
Because during production runs, oftentimes parts changes occurred, and it could be a particular yield from a particular vendor or a particular style.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
it varies, yes. Highlander says that the Toledo facility was consolidated with Ann Arbor facility and Ann Arbor Grill, and they closed Toledo Tesla, that is. Okay.
I thought Toledo and Ann Arbor were a few hours apart. Maybe they're closer than I thought.
Yeah.
YouTube Niels says in reference to the coolant delete on the later model of Teslas, Tesla is doing that.
Okay.
It is mentioned in a video by Conduit EV Repair in California.
Okay.
Hey guys,
Thank you. Yeah.
I did a little research on that, and it's kind of I don't want to say it's not true, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's considered more of like a reduction of coolant. They still need coolant, but it's like a simplified plumbing in newer models. There's innovations in battery thermal management, and there's a reduced reliance on traditional radiator designs. But they still need coolant for the battery packs, the motors, the inverters, cabin heating and cooling for the HVAC. So I think where you're seeing the reduction is more in the newer cells that are going to be coming out. And I think the future technology of battery cells will reduce the amount of coolant that you will need for the vehicles.
Sure. And that would be the obvious answer. Anytime you have fans and coolant in a design, it's a design compromise.
Right.
You've got You've got excessive heat that you need to get rid of that could be designed out of that device. And as the technology continues to improve, we may not need liquid cooled motors anymore or inverters. Let's see. Niels is also saying, did you see Stellantis take $17,000 off all trucks? This means GM and Ford's profit will be gone and that their EVs will therefore be delayed. Oh, I hope not. Yeah.
I hope not as well.
He says it also probably means that their gas and diesel tech will be developed, which is sorely needed. It is emission reduction that matters after all, EVs or not.
I have to agree with Niels on that. You know, you've got what's better for the environment? Getting a truck that normally gets between 8 and 16 miles a gallon up to 25 miles a gallon when you have 700,000 Fords a year and 700,000 Chevys a year in these spaces being produced, or having 10,000 Chevys and Fords being sold as electric.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the electric is the way to go. The short term, getting better gas mileage in these trucks is going to have a big impact.
Good point. Okay. And Martin Wood says Lucid earnings call the 25th of February.
Yes. And he also says all his EV stocks are red today.
Okay.
Tesla is down about $15 so far.
All right. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got some delivery with the Gravity. Pete Rawlinson, he ended up getting one of the first Gravities, not the first apparently, and they didn't say who the first one was. So China, here's an article, is set to sell more electric vehicles than ones powered by traditional engines in 2025. And I've got a graph here that we can actually throw up here that supports that projection. There we go. Oh, that's Lucid sales.
Left and down, that right there.
This one. Okay. Perfect. So there you have it. Let's see if I can blow that up a little bit more. No, it doesn't look like I can.
My understanding is that this is 10 years ahead of schedule.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, China had announced that they were going to try to get EV sales to be greater than ICE vehicle sales by 2035, and now they're set to do it this year. And I was impressed because, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, China is the biggest car market in the world right now. The United States market for new vehicles is anywhere from 14 to 17 million cars a year. In 2024, they did right at 16 million cars. That's all vehicles, all types. China has been running almost 28 million cars a year. China is going to sell in 2025 almost as many EVs as the entire U.S. car market.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Where do they come from? You know, that's my next question.
Well, a lot of the Chinese car makers are really big. BYD is really big, and they are one of several viable EV companies that sit in China. Tesla, of course, is viable and making boatloads of money in China with their Model Y and their Model 3.
Got another headline here. Oops, I'm on the wrong screen here. There we go. Bear with me, folks. Okay, so this headline says, in Norway, only rental companies buy gas cars because tourists don't get EVs. And that's a good point. What they say here is that in 2024, 88.9% of cars sold in Norway were all electric, up from 82% in 2023. And the main holdout? The rental car companies who service tourists who aren't familiar with electric vehicles. And they're probably from the U.S. because EV adoption in the U.S. is around 9%. And I'm going to show you some stats from other countries. It's embarrassing. So they say that if we expand the definition to electrified vehicles, 5.3% of the market were conventional hybrids, bringing the total number of vehicles with an electric motor up to 96.9%. Only 2.3% of vehicles in Norway were diesel only, and 0.8% of the vehicles were gasoline or petrol only. So the numbers confirm that Norway is basically on target with their plan to end gas car sales by 2025. And it happened much quicker than I thought it would. I saw all these lofty projections that by 2035 they're going to stop ice production, ban it, and all of that. And I thought, yeah, I'm not sure that's going to really work out that well.
Right.
But then you have leaders like Norway that are demonstrating that we can do it before the deadlines.
And I thought it was interesting reading through the article. Many of the traditional ice car manufacturers are pulling all of their ice products from Norway because they just don't sell anymore.
Yeah, good point.
And so the market has reached that stage where internal combustion engine cars are not even available as new cars generally in Norway.
So getting back to the demand for, or lack of demand for EVs at the rental car companies, they say rental car companies in America have dealt with a similar issue where Hertz made a huge EV purchase only to later decide that it had overdone it and that some of the renters just couldn't figure out the EV cars, even though EVs did increase Hertz's overall customer satisfaction.
I think they had one too many blonde ladies trying to fill their EV with gasoline.
Yeah, good point. All right. Let me see if I have any other images here that we can pop up here. There's a Lucid sales graph. Let's pop that up, and that supports what you were saying earlier. Can we get that up on the screen, Jesse? Correct. You're right. There we go. Okay. Estimated monthly U.S. vehicle sales, Lucid. So it's headed in the right direction.
It definitely is headed in the right direction, and those estimates are going to have to be revised upwards for the last 3 months.
Yeah. All right, this is where we go into our what's coming across the wire portion. And it turns out that Mercedes claims that their new AI-powered EV can predict driver behavior. Though to be fair, if you spend $120,000 on an electric car, it's pretty easy to predict that you're making bad decisions.
Definitely is. And a study found that the top fear about AI-powered EVs is that they might get hacked. Because apparently people think hackers want to steal their Spotify lists and their charging history from that Walmart parking lot.
Good point. GM now says that their future EVs are going to use AI to optimize battery life, which is great until your car decides to save power by refusing to drive you to your ex's house because it's not emotionally healthy for you right now, Dave. A little bit of AI going into there, controlling things, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So, Lucid Motors announced their new AI system can detect driver moods. Though if you spend $250,000 on a Lucid, the mood is pretty obviously desperate for attention.
Well, and BMW, not to be outdone, has also developed an AI system that can recognize driver emotions. So if you're driving a BMW, the emotion is always angry at everyone else on the road.
Right. And finally, the Ford F-150 Lightning owner complained that the AI assist is too woke. Apparently, it keeps suggesting that he tried charging at Whole Foods instead of rolling coal at the Prius drivers.
A new study is showing that people are worried that AI-powered EVs might develop personalities. As if your regular car doesn't already have a personality. I mean, my Chevy is definitely passive-aggressive about its check engine light.
Uh-huh. A Tesla owner reported that their car's AI started giving relationship advice. Apparently, it suggested breaking up with your girlfriend because she drives a Rivian.
That's awesome. A survey found that truck owners are especially suspicious of AI in electric vehicles. Of course, because nothing says I fear technology like spending $80,000 to make your truck worse at everything.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, Chinese EV makers are adding AI that can detect when you're stressed. Though if you paid attention to their stock prices lately, you wouldn't need AI to figure that out.
That's true. Rivian also announced that their trucks will use AI to optimize off-road performance. Finally, a technology that helps you get stuck in the woods more efficiently.
Right? And then finally, a study shows people that are afraid of AI might make their EVs too smart. Meanwhile, my car's AI still thinks a plastic bag is an incoming missile.
Oh, yes.
All right, and then finally, the portion we wanted to share with you, how are the European countries faring regarding EV adoption? Norway, 97.5%. Sweden, 65%. Netherlands, 30.9%. Germany, 38%. France, 21%. Belgium, 30.9%. Italy, 2.94%.
What's going on with Italy?
They love their Ferraris and Lamborghinis and
Yes.
Fiats, and
Yes, that's got to be it.
that's a tough market. And then, of course, in the U.S., we said 9%. So we really appreciate you all joining us. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season. We will be back next week with another edition of the Gruber Morning Show EV portion.
Come join us in 20 minutes for the Tesla Roadster Roundtable.
Thank you.